Welcome to the show. Let's begin with the very latest COVID-19, starting with the daily change in Texas. As of yesterday, as of Tuesday, as of today, there's been no new cases. In the 7-day hours, there's been 54. In Oasis County, you have 912 total cases from April 7th to 20th. 40,997 with 764 deaths today. State of Texas, 2.86 million with 49,837 deaths. None have recovered. In Oasis, nor in this county, nor in Texas. 31.8 million total cases. None have recovered with 568 deaths. 80.4 million were recovered. 3.1 million deaths with 121 million total cases. 10.3 have had at least one dose. 6.6 million have been fully vaccinated, 22.9% and 35.5%. California, 17.4 million have had at least one dose, 10.1 have been fully vaccinated. California, 3.72 million cases with 61,083 deaths. As for the daily change, $25.57 with 23.75 in a 7-day average. 2,500 new cases. That's what basically, everyone needs to get that vaccine because it's very, very important. We have to get our lives back on track. And doing that, and for those who have not gotten the vaccine, you still need to follow all these tips. Masks are very important. Social distancing is very important. It's very important for you to make sure that you know what you're doing if you're traveling. Travel restrictions are banned because of the pandemic. Were banned. In some states like California, they're still banned because of the pandemic. So now, if you wanted to go on Dr. Phil, you'd have to drive. You have to drive from like Texas to California over days to get to the Dr. Phil show. You can do it virtually. And he buy your plane ticket. That's like how it is. If your state has travel restrictions, follow them. If your state doesn't, then you're free to travel. Just make sure you wear a mask at all times. And the mask should be at the nose, not down here, nor down here. That's number one. Number two, social distance is very important. If your school has 3 feet, 3 feet. If not, stay within the 6 feet limit from your school. Let's see what else. Always disinfect your area every time you're at school. Once you leave the classroom, you disinfect your area immediately. No excuses. It should take you less than a minute to get it done, depending on if you get distracted. If you get distracted, that adds more time. It takes me 10 minutes to get towel buckets done. If it takes me 10 minutes to get towel buckets done, it should take you no less than a minute to disinfect your area. There's disinfectant spray, disinfectant wipes, paper towels, hand sanitizers. Follow the markings on the grounds, that way you won't social distance yourself. And use your school ID if you're going to purchase a lunch. No deliveries. No DoorDash, no Favor, no Waiter, no Grubhub, no Caviar. None of that. Understand it. Wash your hands every 30 seconds every day with water that is not near 110 degrees with antibacterial soap. That is going to help. It helps out a lot. It helps kill germs. It really helps out a lot. A lot of times. Also, if you have a medical condition, your child's under 2, they cannot wear a mask. But if you have a medical condition, you let them know beforehand so that they can understand, like, oh, he can't do this because he has a medical condition. They ask for medical proof, show it. If your doctor says, I'm sorry, but I cannot provide it because of this or that, then that's their choice. Try to understand it. We need to make sure that we're safe, and we gotta make sure that we're all safe here from this thing. Coming up, our Giving Back special into the 22nd anniversary of the shooting at Columbine High. And years later, what has happened ever since? We're going to talk with we're going to see some of the survivors that have survived, and all those years later, and look at the spikes in shootings 22 years after Columbine, which was yesterday. Then a bit later, we're going to take you to a restaurant that allows open carry and ask the question, should restaurants be allowed to open carry employees? Well, there are rules out there, and I'll explain them a bit later. April 20th, 2021. It has been 22 years since the mass shooting at Columbine, with 2 boys that went in there with guns. Killed a lot of people, including those teachers. Today, we revisit the shooting. In the U.S., and after the first Columbine shooting, after that shooting, the U.S. has reported at least 45 mass shootings in the past month. Begs the question: was media coverage of COVID-19 intense that mass shootings failed to get covered, or did these events simply not occur? That's the question we're going to be focused on, and the DailyTarHeel.com answers that question for you. The FBI defines mass shootings as an incident that kills or injures 4 or more people in one location at an event. Based on this definition, however, the mass shooting numbers rose during the pandemic. Last year, the U.S. saw nearly a 50% increase in mass shootings from 2019. Experts claim the strife created by the pandemic was directly correlated with the rise in mass shootings. Why didn't we hear about these events? Well, during the pandemic, with straggling death tolls, a contagious presidential election, and rising unemployment, mass shootings were no longer in front-page news. While there's clearly no defined answer as to why the increase in gun violence occurred, few explanations have been suggested. For instance, Chicago had 36 mass shootings through September 2020, and 31 of those were predominantly black communities and neighborhoods that witnessed sizable amounts of violence. The second explanation follows the rise in gun sales. According to FBI data last year, the most background checks since 1998 have caught gun sales. It has been thought gun sales grew due to the pandemic, social unrest, and election fears. Now this year, the new FBI data shows over 90,000 background checks were conducted on North Carolina firearms buyers in March, an increase from over 86,000 in January and 72,000 in February. With all these mass shootings, why hasn't the media decided to focus more on the pandemic, more or less the mass shootings? It's an alarming rate because of all this happening. And it's been a great rise. Even USA Today, there's been more shootings. Last month there was a shooting in Minneapolis and in Acworth, Georgia, Boulder, Colorado, March 22nd. In April, this month, the 3rd, there's been another shooting. Rock Hill, South Carolina, in Millicent, Piana. 6 shootings this year. And at the stimulus check, the stimulus check is from Indianapolis, Indiana, 4 killed, 1 injured. The Atlanta area spa shootings, 16th. Acworth, Georgia, 8 killed, 1 injured. Boulder, Colorado, at the grocery store, 10 killed, 1 injured. 3 mass killings. Maryland, California, and Texas. Rock Hill, South Carolina, the 7th. The 15th. And all these shootings were caused by the big guns. But we're not going to look into this shooting. We're going to look into the Columbine. And after 22 years, and after all those years, the grocery store rampage followed a spike in mass shootings last year. And there's been almost a spike. If you look at the statistics, you look at the statistics today from this graph, which I'm going to show you. 1982, there's been 1 shooting. 84, 83, 0. 84, 2. 2018, this year, there's been a rise. And for this year, there's been 4 mass shootings. Here's a graph. The graph shows the latest. That information. And by the shooter's race, 66% were white, 10 were unknown, unclear, Native Americans were 3, 5 were other, 8 were Asian, Latinos were 10, 21 were black. You may think I'm being racist about this, but this ain't about race. Most of the shooters were white. And this was a certain time period over 6 days ago. 6 days after the shooting. But between 1982 and April this year, 66 out of 123 mass shootings in the United States are carried out by white shooters. You may think this is all about race, but this ain't about race. It's all about gun violence and how easy it is can get a gun. Sometime in the near future, we're going to look at the number of deaths of this year, but we're not going to do that today. But there's still more to the story here. I mean, on a future show, we will look at more of the school shootings and what more of these mass shootings over the years. and what can be done. Like we did it yesterday. But how would you feel if you went to a restaurant that would allow open carry? It happened in Texas, but wait till you see a restaurant that allows open carry. When we return. Welcome back to Columbine 22. 22 years after the mass shooting at Columbine High. So far throughout these 3 days, we've been looking into questions like, should there be metal detectors? Should teachers carry weapons? And looking into all the school shootings. But now, ever since then, after all those years, you're going to go to a restaurant that proudly has open carried, that allows staff to proudly bring their open carry handguns. Here's a story.
To enter a restaurant where you probably want to make sure to tip well. At Shooter's Grill, open carry has nothing to do with takeout. Almost all the waitresses pack heat, publicly and proudly. They say it makes them safer, and that's apparently been good for business. And probably bad for anyone thinking about dining and dashing. Here's ABC's Clayton Sandell.
Every morning, Lauren Bobert starts the day with some blush, fixes her near-perfect hair, and puts on her sparkly belt. But she is not fully dressed without her bullets and her 9mm semi-automatic. This is the way of life for Lauren, a 27-year-old mother of 4.
Should have back up as soon as we start. Green's got a gun.
Ooh, Green got missed.
Go slower. Ready?
Okay.
Green's got a gun. Hold it out, find the front sight.
Are you a good shot?
Generally.
So when she and her husband opened this restaurant a year ago in their hometown,
How was your meal?
the gun theme seemed totally natural. Lauren took it one step further.
I wanted to start carrying just for my protection. This is my establishment, so I didn't see anything wrong with that. I began to open carry, and then my girls started to approach me and ask if they could open carry as well.
They call the place the Shooter's Grill. And of course, where else would you expect to find a place called the Shooter's Grill than right off the highway here in Rifle, Colorado?
It is a very common thing here. We see people open carrying all the time. We live in Rifle, Colorado. It's a small town. It's a rancher's community. It is like the Old West out here.
Nightline ventured to Colorado's western slope to check it out. Inside, the place is packed, and the waitresses packing. What is this?
It's a Ruger 357 Blackhawk.
Good kick? I mean, is it?
It's got a pretty hard kick, but nothing that I can't handle.
And they are fully loaded. Does anybody dare leave a small tip?
They still tip like normal people, you know, so, I mean, it's not like we're going to shoot them or anything if they leave us a small tip.
What's happening at the Shooter's Grill is an offshoot of a controversial movement started in Texas to legally and openly carry guns in stores and restaurants.
This is probably the safest corner in San Antonio right now.
But a growing number of national chains like Target, Starbucks, Chipotle, Chili's, and Jack in the Box have asked customers to leave their weapons at home. This has only enraged the open carry movement. But here, the concept is turned upside down. Instead of armed customers, it's the employees.
I have a right to carry my firearm, and I'm going to carry it.
Or most of them. You're not carrying.
Right.
Why not?
Because I don't own a gun. I wish I did, but...
Are you the only person in here that doesn't own a gun?
No, there's so can her.
So you're the two holdouts.
Yep, we're
Okay.
getting there. We haven't jumped on the bandwagon yet.
Okay, all right. Why not?
17.
Okay.
So I can't buy
The grill is so popular,
We're from Nashville, Tennessee.
food sometimes sells out. But most people we met didn't come hundreds of miles for the burgers.
We're from Nebraska.
Featuring names like the Guac 9 or the Swiss and Wesson. What made you want to come in?
The guns.
the guns.
I firmly believe that education and safe and responsible use of a firearm is perfectly fine in today's society.
But is it all
Exactly.
just a gimmick?
My firearms have nothing to do with the amazing hamburgers we cook. Actually, the food that we cook is what started all this.
Over the past few weeks, Lauren's restaurant has gotten so much attention that a U.S. Marine supposedly called in with an offer to buy a gun for any waitress that didn't have one.
He called in from California and asked our owner if there was a girl that could buy a gun that did not have one yet. So I got it like 3 days now, maybe?
3 days ago.
Yeah. It's a Kimber 45.
Of course, not everyone is thrilled. From Facebook and social media posts wishing harm to Lauren and her employees, random phone calls at the restaurant,
Shame on you.
to actual hate mail.
Hope God punishes you for what you are doing. Hope that you and all your patrons will kill yourself.
Pretty harsh.
That is pretty harsh.
Then there's Colorado itself, which, after all, is a state that's seen its share of gun violence. The massacre at Columbine High School.
That was the weekend before he was killed.
And 2 years ago, Dave Hoover lost his nephew A.J. Boyk at this Aurora movie theater.
At 2:30 that evening, went to bed, and Teresa called, my sister. She calls, screaming on the phone. I picked it up and I said, what's going on? What's wrong? She says, I don't know where A.J. is. I said, he's at the movies. She says, turn on the TV. Get up, turn on the TV, and that's when it hit me. And I went, oh, my God.
A.J. was one of the 12 people killed that night. Hoover argues the shooter's grill is glorifying gun culture.
This is America. They're allowed to do that. But you can't glamorize the gun. The gun will never be a glamorous thing. It's just an object.
Hoover has been in law enforcement for 3 decades. He worries that when shots ring out, more guns equals more confusion for police.
I don't know which one's the bad guy, which one's the good guy. I know I'm going to engage the one that's closest to me. And I hope to God that's the bad guy. And you never know.
People in Colorado, for example, like Aurora families, like Columbine families, who think that this is sort of a normalization of guns in America, which has got this violent undertone to it.
Mm-hmm. What's violent about it? What's violent about law-abiding citizens carrying a gun?
A lot of people don't want to be around firearms, don't want their families around it. This is not necessarily normal everywhere.
I think it should be normal everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, I think it should be a common sight. I think we'd have a lot less violence if it was.
Lauren insists her employees and her customers are safe.
I'm more worried about my cooks getting burnt in the kitchen than a firearm going off in the restaurant.
Most businesses nearby don't seem worried by all those guns, but one shopkeeper across the street hopes the staff will know how to react if the worst happens.
People who are carrying them, the employees,
Yeah.
I know they've been through training. I know that they're legally able to carry the guns.
Yeah.
Just hope that if somebody happens to come in there and test them, that they'll be able to take care of things. But other than that, I feel great. I went there and ordered lunch today.
Lauren says all of her employees have to take classes and know how to handle their weapons. Even the local police chief says in Rifle, things are different.
Well, I understand why some people from the outside may see this as a little bit odd, but for here it's really quite normal. They really stress the classes, no alcohol is served. So this business model that they have really fits in with the community.
And the burgers are good.
And the burgers are great.
All the national attention and nonstop business, not only for the restaurant, but for Rifle, has Lauren considering a possible franchise.
It sounds exciting. Maybe we would get a couple more restaurants going before anything, but there's been a lot of talk of it, a lot of people calling, a lot of people even demanding it, and it's actually kind of honoring that somebody wanted a piece of what we have.
Lauren and her Shooter's Grill plan to keep on serving seconds right along with the Second Amendment.
People call in all the time and tell me that this is not normal where they are and they would never patronize a restaurant like this. And I say thank you for your opinion. God bless you.
I'm Clayton Sandell for Nightline in Rifle, Colorado.
So the question is, would your restaurant allow customers to open carry weapons? I want you to tell me right now by voting in the description on the poll above, or or in the description below, in the comments below, or on our website, jcarver67.wixsite.com/givemeabreak. You also find some more tips on. You also find articles on the years after the shooting, and the aftermath of the shooting after all those years. We're back in a moment. I'm off tomorrow, but I'm going to give you the latest on Give Me Break Friday. Here is the latest. It's called the Constitutional Carry. It would allow anyone over 21 to carry a gun without a permit. So if you're under 21, you'd have to get a permit. What does that law mean for all of Texas? That's tomorrow. That's tomorrow. That's all for this special edition of Give Me Break Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow for Give Me Break Wednesday for a constitutional carry. Well, I'll see you. Have a great night.